As you can see, we have ourselves a great time in the Marbella Radio, 107.6 FM from Mondays to Fridays. And we also have a great time in Marbella, thanks largely to our Tourism Council, José Luis Hernández. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's nice to have you back, but I am sorry to hear that you're not feeling well. You've got a bit of pharyngitis.
Yeah, laryngitis.
Yeah, we're not sure how to say this in
English.
English. I've been here so long, I don't know.
No, but it's true. The weather is very changing, so from time to time it happens to me.
And you talk a lot.
I talk a lot.
Good thing. I mean, you're
Maybe
always...
too much.
Well, I mean, you have a lot of things to say, apart from what's going on in Marbella.
Yeah.
You are constantly travelling, basically selling Marbella to the international tourist market.
And I must say that it's giving a very good result. In fact, the perception that we are creating worldwide towards the city is very interesting. We are increasing our tourist markets, and the perspective for the future, the prospect is very brilliant. So we are happy and satisfied on how things are developing. But it's a matter of work and of effort, so we need to follow that way.
Without a doubt, a team effort. When I saw from the last inscriptions, there's 140 now nationalities, different nationalities, registered on the town census. That's quite an achievement.
It's an achievement, and it's something that it's also increasing and improving. So it's also a very good part of that aspect is the fact that we are able to register more and more people in the municipality, which it's a challenge for the whole community, for the whole city. But we are growing in all terms, in tourist terms, employment terms, residential tourism terms. So I think that we have done a reasonable job, and the foundations that we have set for the future are very solid.
Before, in the introduction of the programme, we're actually talking about the upcoming elections on the 24th of May. And I don't think many people realise that the people who are registered on the town census, who asked to vote at that time, which is something that everyone didn't get to know about, I don't know why, but they weren't necessarily informed that they could vote. But there is a big percentage of the foreign community that can actually vote in these local elections coming up on the 24th of May. And in view of that, I was listening to our mayoress being interviewed on Spanish TV Marbella, very nice interview with Roberto Calzada. And I'd like to go through those points with you, because I think our international residents need to hear this too. If they don't speak Spanish, they couldn't listen like I. 8 years ago, so your government has done 2 terms. 8 years ago, you inherited a brand Marbella that didn't exist. In fact, the Marbella was not very, destroyed. Tell us a bit how it was for you, that government, to come in 8 years ago, what you found yourselves with.
Well, it was a huge challenge, because we found a debt of 600 million euros when the municipal budget is around 200. So it was an almost impossible economic situation. We were in absolute bankruptcy, and we had to make a huge job yards with very few tools. So finally, it is true that the power of the brand is very big, and I think that we follow a very smart strategy in order to create alliances all over the world with some other institutions, so that the promotion of the city was cheaper. And we focused in some of the most important markets, the markets that had the guarantee of experiencing a bigger growth, and I think that everything was correct. So now we are receiving the results of it. The year 2014 has been, in tourism terms, a record for the city. The year 2015 is going to be even better. Now we are going to have this long weekend, this next weekend with the
Puente de Mayo.
The
May
and
1st
we
of
are
May.
going to have a level of occupation in our hotels that is going to be around 90%. Some of them are going to be at 100% of occupation, and the whole season, high season, is going to be spectacular. But the whole tourist year, from March till November, is going to be maybe one of the better ones of the best that we had. So I think things are moving forward in the good direction,
but
and with a very healthy rhythm.
As you said, it's been 8 years. What you inherited to what you are faced with now is completely different. But from an outsider's point of view, having been in Marbella my whole life, whereas you would see in governments, and I include in Madrid, that people seem to inherit a system, they inherit an administration. with Mary Angeles and the team's government, you've basically started again. You got rid of half the people in the town hall. Angeles just put the Marbella into districts, 7 or 8 different districts that have people in charge of those districts actually know what's going on. Taken over asphalting all the urbanizations that had never been touched. In the sense you've got out of the dredge and now you're actually putting in major projects. But isn't it because the whole focus of your team is so different? It's like a company and everyone has a specific mission.
Yeah. No, it is true, and it is not less true the fact that we inherited that debt of 600 million euros, and now that we have been able to reduce it down to 345, if I remember well. So if we are able to do all these things with the city, with that lack of resources, and being able to pay that big part of the debt, imagine what we could have done if we could have used that money to be invested in the city. I mean, we are satisfied on how things have been done, and we are optimistic, very optimistic for the future of the city. But imagine that if we had this reasonable result after the effort of these 8 years, imagine if we would have been able to devote 300 million euros more to our management. I think things would have been much easier, the result would have been much more spectacular, but I think that we have been able to put every bad aspect of the city upside down. We have been able to create a new dynamism in the city right in the middle of the worst economic crisis that Spain has suffered in the last half century. And I think that there are reasons to be satisfied. I think that we have done a reasonable job.
I think without a doubt, and I know personally, and Johnny and the rest of the team are very happy. The people who've been in Marbella a long time, we can recognise the difference. Now, I would like to actually make a point of this because a lot of people those of us who are integrated in maybe a more Spanish world, understand more. A lot of people live here superfluously and they don't get involved. And they have a tendency to come out with this corrupt Spanish government. Now, unfortunately, there is far more truth in this and a lot of incidents going on. However, if we talk locally about Marbella, there's a new Transparency Act, and Marbella is even demanding the other political parties to show all the figures. Can you talk a bit about what a challenge that is to be hardworking individuals who are doing very, very well and then be swept into this same group as...
Well, I must underline that we were the social reaction to corruption in the city. I mean, I can talk about me, about my case, for example. I was preparing myself to become a public prosecutor. So, as you can imagine, nothing farther than me than the corruption. In fact, I wanted to devote my life to fight against crime and corruption. So I found that there was another way, maybe more socially advisable in the case of Marbella, to help my community, and that's the reason why I decided to forget about becoming a public prosecutor and becoming a councillor.
A public promoter.
A public promoter. And I think that it marks a very big difference. And it is true that currently in Spain we are facing maybe too many cases of corruption, but it is not less true that there is a distortion in the perception. I mean, the vast majority of the Spanish political members, politics are good faith people trying to do their best for their community. And it is true that we have suffered some years of a huge economic growth. And when you mix growth, economy, money, and power, sometimes you find that this type of phenomenon. But I think that there is a distorted perception about the public role of politicians in Spain. I think that the vast majority of the people is very honest people, hard workers, and there is a good side in all this, and it's the fact that the system is working, because those problems that have been detected are being erased right now by the judicial system.
We're hearing about them, which 20 years ago wouldn't have happened, maybe.
That's a reflection of transparency and good health in the system, because all the things that we are now suffering, all the information that we are now suffering, refers to maybe 5, 6, 10 years back. So the situation has changed. And I think that it's important for everybody to know that the public system in Spain is working and giving the right answer to this type of phenomenon.
A lot of people don't know, as I say, that they have a right to vote in local elections. And by voting for Angeles to come in for another 4 years, I suppose would be the dream to be able to, I hadn't taken into consideration what you said, which is so important, that look what you've done, having inherited all that debt. What could you have done if you just had the normal flow of money to put Marbella back in the right system? An appeal to the people watching. How can we help you be able to get in there and for 4 years more, let you guys get on with what you've started?
I think that we have been able to set the foundations for the future of the city. Now is the moment to build the future of the city, and I think that for that is of the utmost importance, the stability. And unfortunately, either Popular Party wins the elections in Marbella, or we will have a coalition of small parties that I'm absolutely sure that is going to bring instability to the city, because instead of being thinking in the public interest, each of them are going to be thinking in the political interest and how to make better in electoral terms than his colleagues in the government of the city. So I think it's important for the city to have the stability. I think that we have been able to demonstrate that we are reliable people, that we can do things without resources, that we can, that we have put Marbella with a new reputation worldwide. The last example has been a couple of weeks ago, Wall Street Journal, with a very nice article about Marbella. But it is not just the case of the Wall Street Journal. We found it also in the case of the Sunday Times, the Daily Telegraph, Paris Match, Hello, and many other international media that are able to, how do you say this in English, to recognize the change that Marbella has gone through along these 8 years.
I think without a doubt the testament to that is that particularly the 4- and 5-star hotels are, as you say, so full, so it's nice we have a good flow of cash in Marbella, and I know that it's a lot to do with you. And just to mention that we are here on television in English because of your team wanting to reach out to the foreigners, us to give you feedback, what we need, because however much we think we understand each other, we are so different, systems are different, and that's only going to come with continued communication and collaboration. So,
and it is extremely important. In fact, people have to know that there are 5,000 neighbors of Marbella from belonging to their residential tourism, foreigners, with the right to vote in the local elections.
Well, let's hope we all do that.
5,000 people is a lot of people, and they could be the difference that could mark what is going to be the future, the political future of the city. So I think that there is a responsibility also in that aspect, and I invite people to think on how they can cooperate and to help us. And when I say us, I'm not referring to my political party itself, I'm referring to the whole community. And I think it's important for everybody to have a thought in how they can help to make things better, to make things improve. And I think that voting is one of the most important things that people can do in order to improve things in Marbella.
Well, we have the vote. A lot of us have had to fight to get a vote, and knowing that we have one, if you're signed on that census, check it out. José Luis, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
I hope you feel better soon.
Yes.
And I'm sure this is going to help make him feel better.